Welcome to the Explainer. What happens when the sworn enemy of a militia is the first one to announce that its leader is dead? That's the bizarre situation we're digging into today. It's a story that unravels a secret proxy war in Gaza, and it all kicks off with one very strange death announcement.
Okay, so let's get right into it. On December 5th, a man named Yasser Abu Shabab is confirmed dead. But here's the twist. It's not Hamas announcing it. It's their sworn enemy. The Israeli army radio makes the announcement. And that one little fact? Well, it blows the lid off a whole story of secret proxies, huge strategic failures, and shifting power right on the Egyptian border.
So who exactly was this Yasser Abu Shabab? To really get why Israel would be the one to announce his death, you have to understand the man himself. He wasn't your typical factional leader. No, this guy was a walking contradiction, a man whose tangled allegiances made him both an incredibly valuable asset and a really dangerous liability.
As the source material lays it out, Abu Shabab's story is kind of this classic tale of a man living on the margins. Born right on the Egyptian border, he gets into drug trafficking as a teenager. But it didn't stop there. He allegedly leveled up to supplying weapons to ISIS-affiliated groups in the Sinai, which, put him on the wrong side of both Hamas and Egypt. Not a great spot to be in. And sure enough, by 2015, his luck ran out, and he landed himself in a Gazan prison.
So just think about this profile for a second. You have a guy operating in the shadows who's an enemy of Hamas, a threat to Egypt, and a convicted criminal. This really unique and dangerous resume is exactly what made him the perfect and maybe the perfectly disposable candidate for a very high-stakes intelligence operation. So that brings us to the million-dollar question. How does a jailed criminal, a guy who's an enemy to just about everyone, suddenly find himself leading an armed militia in the middle of a war? Well, the answer, according to the source, takes us right into the shadowy world of proxy warfare. The best way to think about a proxy strategy is like remote control warfare. A powerful state can pull the strings of a local group to achieve its goals, all without putting its own soldiers on the ground. It gives you influence, plus a crucial safety net, plausible deniability. If the whole thing blows up, you can just say, hey, wasn't us.
So the source lays out this audacious four-step plan to create an anti-Hamas force from the inside out. It allegedly started with a literal jailbreak, an Israeli airstrike on his prison. From there, Abu Shabab was reportedly armed and funded, and his mission was twofold. First, fight Hamas directly, and second, and this is so important, seize control of humanitarian aid at the border crossing to build up his own power base and cut off his rivals' resources.
For a while, this was all happening in the shadows, like a ghost war inside Gaza. But then, the mask came off. The source points to this critical moment when Israeli officials actually went public and admitted they were backing the militia, arguing it was necessary to save their soldiers' lives. Well, that admission just shattered any plausible deniability. Overnight, Abu Shabab went from being a shadowy operator to a publicly branded collaborator, and his fight against Hamas turned into a fight for his life against, everyone. So with his cover completely blown, Abu Shabab and his militia were just totally exposed. The whole project was now on a collision course with a pretty dramatic and violent end.
Just look at this. It shows the complete reversal of fortune for this Israeli strategy, according to the source's analysis. A covert tool that was designed to weaken Hamas became a massive public failure. And, in a really deep irony, by eliminating a high-profile Israeli-backed rival, Hamas actually emerged from this whole thing looking even stronger.
And the details of his death, they're really telling. An Israeli newspaper reported he wasn't killed in some big firefight. He was captured and beaten to death. The source highlights this as a critical detail because it signals a total failure of Israeli intelligence and protection. They couldn't warn him, they couldn't extract him, they couldn't even ensure he went down fighting.
So you see, this wasn't just the loss of one guy. It was a cascading failure with really severe consequences. Hamas demonstrates its tight grip on internal security, Israel loses its foothold inside Gaza, and maybe most damaging in the long run, it becomes incredibly difficult to recruit the next proxy when the last one was left so utterly unprotected.
But the fallout from this failed project, it extends way beyond Israel and Hamas. It lands squarely on the doorstep of another regional power, Egypt. For Cairo, Abu Shabab wasn't just an Israeli proxy. He was a problem they were probably happy to see disappear.
For Egypt, the death of Abu Shabab was, you could say, a strategic gift. It removes a dangerous variable from an already volatile border. His alleged ISIS ties are gone and an unpredictable armed group is eliminated.
This clears the board, potentially paving the way for Egypt to advance its own security plan for Gaza, one that relies on forces loyal to them, not Israeli-backed militias.
At the end of the day, the story of Yasser Abu Shabab is just a powerful case study in how unpredictable and often self-defeating proxy warfare can be. It shows how a plan to weaken an enemy can backfire spectacularly, strengthening them instead. The death of this one controversial figure has redrawn the lines of influence for every major power in the region, leaving behind a power vacuum and a whole host of unanswered questions about what comes next.